Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown Mailbag edition here at the channel. Now, today's mailbag was filmed during our live show, Tuesday, 3 o'clock Mountain Time. So if anything gets dated a little bit, just bear with us here. But I'm answering questions that you guys had regarding a lot of the kicker buzz going out there and everything else under the sun. So let's get started with this coming in from Eddie Martinez. Who will replace Brandon McManus? That is, right now, the million-dollar question in Denver, right? Who's going to be this team's next kicker? Because they really only had one kicker, barring McManus missing 1 or 2 games since 2014. If I had to make a pick, I'd go with Brett Maher. I just think he probably makes the most sense because he played with the Saints under Sean Payton in 2021. He was really good with Dallas last year up until the postseason. And that is a buyer beware, right? You might have major buyer's remorse if you get Brett Maher, and he's awesome for you in the regular season, and Denver squeaks into the postseason, and they're on the verge as a 7th seed, upsetting the 2-seeded Bills or Bengals or Chiefs on the road, and Brett Maher strikes again. So we'll have to wait and see, but Brett Maher is my prediction. Eddie, thank you so much for the question, though. Kenny with a super chat to support the channel. Thank you so much, Kenny. I heard the Broncos are working out Brett Maher. What do you think of that? So I'll kind of a little bit of regurgitate what I just said. Plus, we have some Brett Maher stats we can throw on screen for you guys to see. But the big question is, can you look past the meltdown he had in the postseason, right? If you believe he can get that behind him, great, move forward. But we know how kickers work, right? It's so mental for kickers. It's not just missing a shot, right? Or missing a pass or dropping a pass in the postseason. Like for kickers, there is a good reason to believe if you get the case of the yips, you might never be able to fully move on from it. And the NFL isn't going to sit around and give you a second chance. Last year for the Cowboys, 91 field goal percentage. That is very good, very impressive. But we know how the postseason went. And I don't need to remind anyone of the all-time meltdown he had against the Bucs. And he's just super lucky that Dallas just kept scoring touchdowns, and 6 points is just as good. Well, 6 points is still good, but it's not as good as 7 points. So I do have concerns over adding someone after the meltdown he had on public television. But he's probably the best option in terms of like just overall kicker still on the market. And you know how Sean Payton loves his former Saints players. Robert 2424. Any news or rumors on Shelby Harris maybe potentially coming back to the Broncos? So Denver signed Tyler Lancaster, a defensive tackle who was with the Raiders last year. We'll throw up Tyler Lancaster's stats for you guys. And was with the Packers for the first 4 years of his career. I think that pretty much kills any idea of Denver just A, adding another defensive lineman in general, and B, Shelby Harris specifically. Now, I like Shelby Harris. I think he still has some good years left in the tank. So I would not be opposed to a reunion. And hey, if you were to add Shelby Harris, could Denver say they won the Russell Wilson trade? Just say it. Like if you got Russell Wilson and then a year later you got Shelby Harris back, I don't know. People are talking, right? Maybe that makes Denver the winner altogether. But Lancaster, who they added right after cutting Brandon McManus, he's not a pass rusher, which Shelby Harris does have to his game, but he's a good run stopper. And what does Denver need a little bit? Help in the trenches. Plus, that's going to free up Drew Sanders and Josie Jewell to really fly into the backfield and get some sacks and tackles for loss going. So I don't see a Shelby Harris signing happening after the Tyler Lancaster acquisition. But thank you so much for the super chat. Wilson's wife next up on the show. Just wondering, what would it cost to trade for Justin Tucker? So I feel like the Justin Tucker trade question is right there with, could Alabama, maybe Georgia now, beat the worst team in the NFL after each season? And to me, I don't think a Justin Tucker trade could actually ever go through because the Ravens are not dying to move on. And another big reason is I don't really know what the market is for Justin Tucker, right? Is it a first-round pick? Is it more than a first-round pick? I'm not more than, is it a first-round pick? Is it a second-round pick? I'm not quite sure. But Justin Tucker is going to go down as the greatest kicker in NFL history. So I assume there's a little bit of jokiness behind this. So I'm going to answer it with a little bit of jokiness too and say very low or very high. What would it cost? A second? I think Justin Tucker goes for a good chunk of change, honestly. He's just that reliable. Next question up here. David, who is our guards? Roster only shows mentors and Powers. I think you mean Quinn Miners and Powers. So your starting left guard is Ben Powers. Your starting right guard is Quinn Miners. And after that, you're right, there is a bit of a drop-off in terms of depth on the offensive line for Denver. On the interior, they don't have a whole lot. They moved on from Glasgow. So your offensive guards are going to be found in terms of depth during training camp, right? That is a pretty much one training camp roster battle up for grabs right now in terms of interior offensive line presence at the guard position. But for now, it's Quinn Miners and Ben Powers as your two starting guards, and you really hope neither of them get hurt. Now, going back to that Justin Tucker question, would you trade a first-round pick for Justin Tucker? T for trade or P for pass? I'm going to pass. I don't think Denver is a kicker away from hoisting the Lombardi. Like if the Bengals, for example, were like, we have or the Chiefs or the Bills, whatever. We're like, we have every piece needed. We just need to get the best kicker in the league. Maybe they could sell themselves on like a mid-season trade to really get all the pieces needed to pull off a Super Bowl run. But for Denver, I don't think it makes sense. They need a first-round pick more than they need an aging kicker who's still going to be good, but Justin Tucker can only do so much. John Lopez, do you think Greg Dulcich will be tight end 1 if he doesn't improve his blocking ability? So Dulcich last year, remember, he missed the first 5 weeks of the season, and he was a very good receiving tight end despite missing a lot of very important things as a rookie during training camp. But you're right, the blocking ability, or more inability, did hold him back a little bit. I know that Sean Payton has a affinity for tight ends, and he wasn't asking Jimmy Graham to block all that much in New Orleans. So I think they can ask Dulcich to step up the game in the blocking department, but also recognize we didn't draft you to be a blocking tight end. That's why we signed Chris Manhertz, right? That's why we traded for Adam Trautman, maybe. For Dulcich, it's you're going to be a receiving tight end. So I do think Greg Dulcich will be the tight end 1, even if he does not improve his blocking ability. Now, make sure to subscribe, by the way, for the best Broncos YouTube coverage out there. We keep you guys informed and I think entertained a little bit too. So make sure to subscribe. Usually I'm not recovering from wisdom teeth surgery, so I'm usually a lot more energetic. But hey, I still want to get some content out to you guys and hang out with the country. Ernesto Siebert, next up on the channel. Any updates on Javonte Williams' recovery? It's kind of been 0 dark 30. We got a brief update back in February, and then there was buzz and murmurs and rumors during the combine that Denver's front office really has no idea what to expect out of Javonte Williams in 2023 in terms of availability. But Sean Payton was talking to the media last week, and he said they expect Javonte Williams to play at the start of training camp, which is remarkable, right? The guy's coming off more than just an ACL injury. He essentially tore almost every ligament he had in his knee. So for him to come back in July after suffering that in August would be one heck of a turnaround. That's the latest in terms of specifics. You can a July return, although I wouldn't hold your breath on that. Don't be shocked if Javonte Williams starts the year on the PUP list. Do high knees. My Bears friend asked me about trading Randy Gregory to Chicago. Could it happen? Could it happen? Yes. I don't think it's very likely, though, right? When I say I don't think it's very likely, I think it's very unlikely, right? In that 0 to 10% range here. Now, Randy Gregory was a 5-year, $70 million free agent signing by George Payton to sort of replace Von Miller, and it didn't get off to a glamorous start last year. He only played in 6 games, which unfortunately has been the theme for Randy Gregory's entire career, lack of availability. Now, the start of the season, remember, he was great with Bradley Chubb, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. He was awesome in the first couple of weeks against the Seahawks, the Texans, the Niners. But once the knee injury came back, and even after the knee injury, just like him getting into a fight on the Christmas Day game against the Rams, just some maturity issues right there, in my opinion. Now, financially, it could be done because he only signed a deal with $28 million in guaranteed money. So it's not like even after moving on just 1 year later, Denver would be taking on a huge bill. He's got a base salary of $14 million this year, and that's what the Bears would have to pay him, and they've got plenty of money. So you got to check that box. $14 million in cap savings. I'm sure Denver would like to have $14 extra million, and the dead cap is just $8 million over the next 2 years. So financially, despite this being the second year of a 5-year deal, it's actually way more doable than you think it is. But I don't think George Paton wants to punt on his 5-year, $70 million marquee free agent signing from 2021 or 2022, I guess, just one season later. Like, he wants to at least give Randy Gregory 2 years and hope that he can bounce back this year and not have to get knee surgery, play 17 games, and put up 10, 11, 12 sacks in a full season. So I think George Paton is not going to sell on Randy Gregory when his value also really couldn't be any lower than it currently is right now. So what do you guys think? Will Gregory bounce back this season? Type Y for yes or type N for no. One possibility is a mid-season trade now that I think about it. Like, if Randy Gregory has a Bradley Chubb start to the season and Denver is like a carbon copy of last year of losing games, but you've got a good edge rusher and those things sell quite well mid-season, maybe he does get moved. But I think George Paton wants to wait and hope that Randy Gregory doesn't make him look like a fool for giving him a 5-year contract. Last question coming in from Joey. Wisdom teeth removal is never fun. This is more of a statement, and it is a very, very true statement. It sucks. I'll kind of end the video with a bit of a TED Talk here. You know how everyone's got that one friend who got their wisdom teeth taken out, and they're like, dude, I was fine that night, or I was good to go the next day. I'm not that person. It's been nearly a week, and it sucks. And I can talk more than I could earlier, but I'm still, like, if you didn't notice the video, got a little bit of a Bugs Bunny look going on here, and I'm still just, like, slurring and mumbling my way through some of these words. So, Joey, couldn't agree more. Wisdom teeth removal sucks. Hopefully, it's behind me in a few days, but it's been a bit of a pain in the dairy here. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's mailbag. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate everyone for making us a part of your day. We'll sign off, and we'll see everyone later.